Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. And welcome to part two of my end of 2025 mini series. Part one is out, the highlights. I'm sharing my top three favorite. In that video, I share my top three favorite moments of the year. And now in this video, I want to talk to you about three of my most challenging moments and in turn, what three lessons I took from those challenges. So before we get into it, make sure you are subscribed. Please like this video, comment, and share so we can reach more beautiful souls. This year has been a roller coaster for me, and I think many of you babes can relate because when I'm online, I can see that I'm not the only one. But yeah, I mean, roller coasters can be a good thing because it means that we're growing. We are being tested so that we can further evolve and expand and transform. But I've been on this healing journey since 2018, I would say, maybe even longer. And there were a good chunk there was a good chunk of time, like a few solid years, and maybe it wasn't even as long as I had thought, but I would say I have a podcast episode that came out, I'll link it, but that episode was a year ago-ish, give or take, when I would have released it, like, we're just a couple days away from the end of 2025, but when I released that episode, it was the beginning of this year, and I was talking about how in 2024, the biggest thing that I overcame was anger, but girl, oh my goodness, like, that's one of the lessons that I learned this year is that I don't think there's such thing as overcoming an emotion, and I have a long journey and layered, complicated relationship with rage, with anger, and yeah, for number 3, we're gonna count down from 3 to 1 for this part. So, I have my year of growth journal. This is from Dreamy Moons. I have been buying this journal for years and years now. It's amazing and so beautiful. And at the end of it's a daily journal, but at the beginning and end of the year, it will give you prompts to reflect on your year and then set intentions for the new year. So right right here, I have journaled on the 3 biggest lessons that I learned in 2025, and like I said, with lessons first, lessons follow challenges. So number 3, I'm gonna just share exactly what I wrote, and then I will explain more. Anger is a real part of my experience. I am meant to feel it and to live in true harmony with it, not without it. I am still learning how to give anger a seat at my table in a way that is not draining. Somatic practices have been very supportive for this so that it doesn't consume or take over my better judgment. This reflection reminds me that it is my duty to create space for myself to feel and experience anger intentionally so that I am able to stay grounded and connected with my authentic self in a way that is supportive, not destructive. So, my history with anger definitely had been one that was destructive over constructive. And it's yeah, it's so interesting because going into 2025 and for the majority of this year, I felt so grounded and even accomplished in the sense that I'm like, okay, I know how to keep myself in check. And it became my new norm. Whereas before my norm was I was very reactive and I had a lot of road rage and little minor inconveniences would piss me off. But after doing years of work, all different kinds, therapy, mindset, whatever else, self love, doing all of that and learning more about myself through astrology and human design, I really felt like I had gotten to a place where I had put this toxic relationship with anger behind me. And what I didn't realize was that it's almost like I had good intentions, but I had abolished anger from my experience. But I felt like it was almost like a monk or a Buddha. Like I felt so neutral about everything. But when it comes down to it, I'm not a Buddha or a monk. I am a soul in this human form on the 3D plane. And as humans, we have a spectrum of emotions for a reason. We are meant to feel into them. And, you might differ from me. You might feel more into, let's say, sadness, whereas I feel more into anger. Just as an example, everyone has different relationships with each emotion. But what I learned this year, because to be so completely honest with you, as I sitting here and recording this, like in so many ways, it has felt in the last few months I don't really even know when quarter 4 would have started, but from September until now, December, like, I would say December has been a better month, but September, October, November, and into December, I have just felt like I've regressed. Like, I have felt like I have been met with a past version of me, even like my teenage self, and I haven't been able to step away from that or out of it, and thank God a new year is coming because that means my benefits, my insurance benefits will reset and I can finally see my therapist. I have not had the opportunity to see her in months simply because the whole money thing, which I'm sure we're gonna get into that too. Money has been a big thing for me this year, but yeah, I don't know, it's so interesting. It's like my ego wants me to feel defeated and like I'm broken or something, but ultimately what it is, it goes back to what I wrote. I am here to learn how to live in true harmony with anger. And I think I'll be referencing this episode a lot. You can click it and save it for later if you haven't already watched it. But the episode on Magically Mindful, the podcast, where I talk about how losing my dream job has taught me the truth about anger. Yeah, because I mean, I really go into all of it in that episode, but that was really that was like the thing that since I cut cords with rage back in the spring of 2024 and then onwards up until truly, honestly, like September of 2025, I thought, oh my gosh, I cut cords with rage. Like we're chilling now. But that was, like, the thing, and it's not to say I had my moments throughout the year where I would get, like, angry, but the spiral I was sent on when I got rejected from the dream job really fucked with me, and I'm still working through it, but I do have good news that in the new year, come January, I am going to be starting a new job. Yay! If you've been here, you know how fucking exciting that is, and I'm sure I'll share more details as things unfold, but I've signed a contract. I have a fucking job and it's not DoorDash, so fucking happy. If I had confetti, I would be shooting it off right now. But that's number 3. So, for the next one, I don't even know what to call this, but I'll just read to you what I wrote. So number 2 goes something like this. Sometimes, despite how confident I may be about something, despite how much manifest, it may not quote unquote come true. This has shown me that the universe is always working behind the scenes, even when it doesn't make sense. I am always being supported, guided, protected, and in some cases, redirected for deeper alignment. I'm grateful to know that the universe is always conspiring in my favor. So, this, yeah, it truly, I feel like this year had had challenging moments prior to the whole fiasco of and specifically what I'm talking about in this reflection is, yeah, having spent the whole summer manifesting this high paying remote job that felt like a perfect fit and then not getting it. And so, yeah, like that happened in September. There were other moments that were challenging this year, but I think that situation fucked with me so much because this really was the first time that, to my knowledge, where I was manifesting something and it didn't come true. But the lesson in that was that the universe is always conspiring in our favor. For a very simple example, with the company that I was trying to work for, after I received the rejection, I went on Glassdoor, which is a website where you can review your employers, and that role that I was up for, there were very specific reviews from employees saying this was the worst thing for my mental health and this and that. So I'm like, seeing that, I was like, okay, I'm being protected. And I'll never truly know, but and this was hard to remember as I was going through the spiral of it all, but what I do know deep down always is that the universe is always conspiring in my favor behind the scenes. And even with the new job that I'm so excited to get started with, it took time. And I am a manifesting generator. And so for months, I was solely looking to work remote because, I mean, honestly, my dream is to be able to work and travel. But I had to change gears, and then I started applying for places local to me, and that's how I landed on the job that I then received. And I don't know, it's like I finally got to a point where I accepted, okay, maybe this is just not the time for me to work remotely. And, there's still, this is all still very new and I'm still in a transitional period. My cat is staring at me. Oh, she's being so cute. Um, so she's distracting me. But being in a transitional period right now because there's still a buffer before I start the job because there's training and this and that. And so it's like I still have to DoorDash and it's like, "Oh, I don't wanna have to do this," and blah, 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 but it's like everything is gonna make sense before I know it. Like, before I know it, I'm gonna have more clarity as to why, I landed on this job and like what it's going to bring, and even just having more sense of community by working within my community, because I'm a 6'2" in human design and the 2 is the hermit. And so there is such a part of me that would love to just stay home with my cat and do things at my own leisure, but I also think that that isn't fully supportive for me in this city of Calgary because I'm living under my Neptune line. And thank God in just a few weeks Neptune is going to finally be moving into Aries. I am so excited for that because with it being in Pisces and Neptune being Pisces ruler, my whole time of living in Calgary, it's like motivation has been hard to say the least. But I've had, it's just ebbed and flowed because I have found consistency, like starting the podcast and getting back into working out. Like there have been areas in my life where I have found consistency throughout my time of living here, but I Yeah, I don't know how good it would be truly for my mental health if I was actually working from home, but I hope that somewhere down the line that that happens, and I'm sure it will in divine timing, but it just goes back to the lesson of you're always protected, guided, loved, supported. Rejection is redirection, and again, I know, believe me, I know it's hard to remember that when you're in the thick of that muddiness and uncertainty and the fog and all of that, but what I've definitely learned is that is that, like, just trust and surrender ultimately because divine timing, babe, it's gonna happen for you. If it could happen for me, it's gonna happen for you too, whatever that may look like. So number 1 is jumping without a parachute. So let me expand on this. So I learned that I have spent my adult life jumping without a parachute, which is teaching me the importance of exploring all possible outcomes before diving into a decision. It doesn't mean that I should stop going after what I desire. It just means to slow down and ground so that if plans change or turn out differently, then I can pivot with ease. And again, like the most challenging thing that happened this year was not getting that job, but it really helped me to learn so much about myself. And it really showed me, like I just said, that I have spent my adult life and probably even longer jumping without a parachute because I think, like, the biggest leap that I would have taken in my life thus far, like, the first big leap was when I was 19. I and I have a podcast episode about this. I will link it for you. It's called "The Breakup That Propelled My Self-Love Journey and Made Me Not Like Drake." I don't exactly remember the title, but it goes something like that. And so when I was 19, I met this guy, my one of my exes on Instagram, and I was living in Edmonton, that's where I grew up, and he was out in Brampton, Ontario, and I fully got love bombed. I just as a 19-year-old, like, it honestly took me just a couple. I think it was truly 2023 when I realized, "Oh my god, this motherfucker love bombed me." But yeah, we like, within a month or so of talking, I moved out there to go to radio school, and so, even looking at that and for even more context, it's like I am a Leo sun, I have an Aries moon, I'm a Capricorn rising, and I'm a manifesting generator, 6-2, sacral authority, and so before I even knew about my charts, like, I could see that, okay, I when I'm passionate about something, I will go after it, and I think for, like, my earliest memories of that is just, like, oh, if there was a concert I wanted to go to, if it was an artist that I loved, like, I would go to great lengths to go, and, back in the day when I did like Drake, I would go to Toronto for OVO Fest and whatever else. And, I love The Weekend and I've traveled all the way to Munich, Germany to see him perform on my birthday. And so that's like, I always knew, just my younger self knew, like, yes, when I love something, I'm going to go after it. But, looking at that with more wisdom, it's also there's also impulse, but again, I'm a sacral authority, which means I'm designed to make decisions with my gut, and so definitely these past couple of years after learning more about my human design chart, I'm like, "Oh, okay, it's discerning what is impulse versus that sacral authority," because there is a difference, and that can be hard to uncover. It really can, but with that impulsiveness, there's jumping without a parachute. And even just looking at 2025, I mean, yeah, there's just been a lot of moments with that, and I think where it really was where the spotlight was, because I've done it in all areas of life, but the spotlight of that jumping without a parachute was really on my financial situation, and yeah, I I have various podcast episodes where I talked about, just being in debt and how I got there, but I don't think I've shared that I actually back in October, and it has just recently been finalized. I am in a consumer proposal, which means 80% of my debt has been wiped. Thank you, Canada, for that. And I'm paying a low monthly payment for 5 years, but of course I can pay it sooner, but that's just the setup right now, and it's no interest, and it's basically like in Canada, and I know I talk about this in the podcast episode, but you can do like, if you're looking to relieve debt, the first option would be consolidating it, the second would be a consumer proposal, the third least favorable is bankruptcy. So I've done a consumer proposal, and that's a really huge thing to help with all of this. And like, it is really helping me. And also, as I'm pre Saturn returning at the moment, like my Saturn return is going to hit in February when Saturn moves into Aries, but it is helping me to be just more aware and more intentional of how I am spending my money, because my pattern since I started working in high school is overspending. Well, I guess at that time I wasn't necessarily overspending, but when I worked at the water park in West Edmonton Mall, working in the mall is a double-edged sword, because I would be in Aritzia as soon as possible, as soon as the check hit, buying Marc Jacobs bags, and who knows what else, honestly, clothes, like, I loved Aritzia, but yeah, Marc Jacobs was my kryptonite, maybe? I don't know, but I just would spend as soon as I'd get the money, and then into adulthood, I was really good with my credit cards for most of the time. Like, I would say it what real and I really went into debt because, I mean, when I first got a credit card, I was 18 and I'm 29 now. And so I would say my debt really probably started when I was 27, maybe even more so 28. Yeah. So living off of credit cards, getting to a point where I was living off of credit cards, that was where the overspending came through, and that very much can tie into jumping without a parachute, and so, yeah, I think, I'm really grateful that I have a partner who is a Scorpio, whereas and so he's water, and I'm fire, and we it's very a beautiful yin and yang balance, because he is more thinking long term, whereas I notoriously just have thought more in the moment, but it's important to have that balance. And I'm trying to do it for myself as well, but it is just so supportive to have a partner that naturally is grounded in that. Um, so that it can help keep me grounded and down to earth. So with these lessons and the challenges, it's going to be interesting to see how I can integrate this wisdom into 2026. And I'm not an expert on this, I just gather my information from the web. But what I do know is that 2025 was the year of the snake. So a lot of shedding, a lot of burning shit down, but which has kind of sucked. But now I have the awareness that 2026 is the year of the horse, and that the snake was here to clear our path so that we can gallop gallop off into the sunset. I pray, and I've been seeing some posts saying that Leo, I think Jupiter's moving into Leo, so it should be a good time for Leo. So but I just want to wish you all of the best for 2026 and that you welcome in this year from a state of peace and calm and groundedness. And if you had a really chaotic holiday or Christmas season, because I know it can be such a busy time, my hope for you is that you can really step into the new year from a place of ease and stillness. I think that that is so important, and on the last episode of the pod, I had my beautiful friend Alyssa on, and she did such a great job speaking to the power of solitude and just spending time with yourself and setting up boundaries. So, I think that that would be such a supportive episode to listen to if you haven't already, especially after we are just slowly but surely transitioning out of such a busy time, and then even with, the fucking bullshit of, like, "It's a new year and da 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 da," like, all of that noise, it's noise. The real new year doesn't happen until Aries comes around, okay? That's the astrological new year, and if you look at the zodiac wheel, it makes a lot more sense than whatever Western shit we have going on. So, while I will celebrate 2026 on Jan 1st, I will be anticipating, in my eyes, what the real new year is. Whoa, what the real new year is, which will be the start of Aries season and the spring equinox. But yeah, because I just think like we're moving into winter here on the northern hemisphere. And so this is a time to just slow down. It really, really is. And I hope that this video can help you to reflect on your biggest lessons of the year. And maybe, after watching this, you can sit down and journal a little bit and see what your top 3 lessons were. I'd love to hear from you in the comments and just spend that time to acknowledge how far that you've come. And I love this New Year's Eve practice. I did talk about this in part 1 of this series where you get plates from the dollar store, like ceramic plates, and write out all the things that you wanna leave behind in 2025, and then when the clock strikes midnight on January 1st, 2026, smash the plates, let it all go, and just really welcome in this new year with feeling lighter, releasing all the shit that no longer serves. So, thank you for being here and for supporting me throughout this roller coaster of a year. I'm so excited to see what 2026 brings for you and me.